If you've ever been to Chandni Chowk, well, you know the signature sound. It's beautiful, relentless chaos, isn't it? We're talking about that legendary maze in Old Delhi, famous for, shimmering silver, the smell of those massive syrupy jalebis, just the non-stop vibrant energy of haggling, of commerce. It's almost always the loudest place in the city. But then, on the morning of November 11th, 2025, that noise, it was just gone. The air felt thick with this profound, almost, I don't know, aggressive silence. So today we're diving into the aftermath of a single devastating event. Happened just 24 hours earlier, right near the iconic Red Fort, an event that somehow managed to completely pause the heartbeat of this UNESCO-recognized heritage area.
Right. And our mission here isn't just to list the facts, the terrible toll, 8 lives lost, over 20 people injured. We want to understand the ripple effect. How does that kind of dread really settle into the bones, into the architecture and the spirit of a place like this?
A historic city center, always crowded, always complex. We're focusing on that specific moment the rhythm stopped. A car explosion near gate number 1 of the Red Fort. It happened the evening before, November 10th, around 7 p.m.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the quiet that settled over Chandni Chowk on the 11th. For the people who live and work there, it was louder than any noise they'd ever heard. Can you paint a picture for us? That physical scene on the morning after, these lanes, they usually pulse with life practically before sunrise, right? Packed with shoppers, vendors setting up, but now?
Yeah, they were like forgotten corridors, almost like a ghost town. It wasn't just a slow day or a holiday feeling. Shop shutters were just clamped shut, stubbornly shut. And the e-rickshaws, the ones that usually zip everywhere, they were just idled, no purpose.
And it's the testimony from the locals, the people who really live and breathe that market day in, day out, that really brings home the shock, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Think about someone like Ramesh. He's a 70-year-old vendor, been on the same corner for over half a century. He apparently said the market never hits the snooze button. For him, the silence was, well, it was more unnerving than the blast itself.
Wow. And that immediate abandonment you mentioned, families just bolting, leaving food on the table like half-eaten plates of kolbature. That detail is so jarring. It tells you everything about how sudden the terror was.
Exactly. It perfectly encapsulates how their entire reality just fractured in an instant. Routine shattered. Makes the quiet the next day feel almost wrong. Profane even.
Yeah, like they couldn't even finish a meal. The fear was that immediate.
And that fear wasn't just in the little winding lanes. Even the big redeveloped pedestrian boulevard. The one meant to showcase the market's revival with wide walkways. Even that area seemed to bear the scars of fear. The first few people who did venture out later, they moved like whispers, eyes darting around, almost jumpy.
They weren't really shopping then. More like surveying the damage to their world.
Precisely. Checking if it was safe to even exist there again.
Okay, so we've got this picture of the eerie quiet, the dread of the morning after. Let's rewind 24 hours. Back to 7 p.m. November 10th. What do we know about the actual blast, the mechanics of it? What physically shattered that rhythm?
Well, the specifics are chilling. We're talking about a white Hyundai i20. It was packed with ammonium nitrate fuel oil and other explosives. The shockwave wasn't just a sound. It was instant physical devastation, a deafening roar that literally shook the ancient walls of the Red Fort, walls that have stood for centuries.
Shaking the Red Fort's walls.
Oh, that's immense.
How quickly did that physical impact translate into, well, panic on the ground?
Oh, instantaneously. Debris, shards of glass started flying like confetti from hell, as one description put it. People didn't have time to process it as a crime scene. It was pure survival instinct.
Right. Existential threat, not just an incident.
Yeah. And the chaos that followed.
Yeah.
It just speaks volumes about the level of panic.
We hear about people like Vikas, right? A florist near the big Jain Mandir. One minute he's tying marigold garlands for evening prayers. The next he's seeing people literally tumbling over each other, screaming.
And think about the timing. The market usually winds down around 9:30 p.m. But the sources say the mass exodus was practically complete by 7:45 p.m.
15 minutes for that entire ecosystem to just evaporate.
Yeah, 15 minutes from bustling commerce to deserted streets. It's staggering. What's fascinating here is, well, it's that instantaneous switch from buying and selling to just surviving. There's this terrifying description from Ram Vishwas. He sells socks on the street. He said the crowd turned into a river of terror, people shoving, kids crying. And he used this local phrase. It really sticks with you. Aisa kabhi nahi dekha, bagadori shuru ho gayi thi, log ghabro gaye the.
Pure pandemonium, that phrase. It captures something raw, doesn't it? Something beyond just a news report. It's like fear etched into memory.
Exactly. The collective memory of the place.
And this impact, it wasn't just the shoppers and shop owners who could run home, was it? We need to remember the market workers, the people who sleep there, the vagabonds.
Right. There are accounts from them, too.
Huh.
One person sort of hunkered down near a chai stall, said the blast jolted even us light sleepers awake. Imagine that.
And the stampede itself caused damage, didn't it? Beyond the immediate blast zone.
Oh, absolutely. For those small-scale vendors, the flight from fear was almost as damaging. Trampled flower beds, spice carts knocked over. The delicate infrastructure of street commerce just wrecked.
So the very act of trying to escape the fear ended up damaging their livelihoods further. Adds another layer of trauma.
Definitely. It compounds the psychological scar.
Does the location itself, right next to the Red Fort, this huge historical landmark, amplify that sense of vulnerability, make it feel worse?
Absolutely. It brings in that whole historical context, the symbolism. You have people like Pramod. He's a jeweler in Dori Bakalan, that famous lane. And you hear this doubt creeping in. He was questioning the security, saying things like, cameras on every corner, patrols around the clock, and this happens, steps from the Red Fort.
It makes the vulnerability feel almost existential, doesn't it? Especially given the history.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
if it can happen here, can it happen anywhere?
But Chandni Chowk, it has such a long memory. We also heard from Vikesh Singh Chauhan, the guy behind the legendary Dariba Kalan Jalebi Wala. That place has been going for, what, down to 2 years? He remembers other incidents, right? Blasts back in the 90s.
He does. Near the Pigeon Market, Gantawali Gali. He's seen shadows before.
So how did this one compare for him?
And this is the crucial point. He acknowledged that history, he said this, Dread, it hit different. That's the phrase he used. Sharper, closer to the bone. Maybe because the previous ones felt a bit more contained, further away. This felt like a direct hit, right at the heart, right at the fort's gate.
Closer to the bone, that says a lot.
It does. And while he is still frying jalebis today, which is incredible resilience in itself, he mentioned the crowd is maybe half what it should be.
So commerce returns, but that vulnerability, it lingers. It hasn't just vanished.
Not at all. It hangs in the air.
Let's pivot just slightly to the official reaction, the investigation. An FIR was registered, we know that. But under what law specifically, and why does that matter?
Right, the FIR was filed under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, the UAPA. That immediately signals how seriously the state is taking this. It's not being treated as just, a criminal act or negligence. It's framed as terrorism, an act intended to disrupt public order, national security.
Okay, UAPA. That's significant. And the investigation itself. Any leads pointing somewhere specific?
Well, the reports, based on surveillance footage, seem to suggest the suspect, the person driving the car, might have come from Pulwama in Jammu and Kashmir.
Oh, Wama.
Yeah. And when you put that together, the target being the Red Fort Gate, the use of the UAPA, this reported regional link,
Yeah.
it frames the whole event within a political context, a potential conspiracy.
Which explains the strong language from the top. Prime Minister Modi vowing swift justice, calling it an act against the nation's spirit.
Exactly. It fits that narrative.
So if we connect this back to the bigger picture, the market's long history, despite this terrible trauma, Chandni Chowk is already sort of limping back to life.
It is, yeah. Slowly. You see vendors dusting off their stalls again. You hear priests chanting for peace. The first tentative buyers are trickling back in. And this resilience, it's not just a political talking point. It's kind of baked into the place itself, isn't it?
How so?
Well, think about it. This market goes back to the Mughal era. It's weathered invasions. It survived the trauma of partition. Decades of political change. When a place has endured that much historical trauma, even something as devastating as this blast can't keep the shutters down forever. It's almost in its DNA to keep going.
Right. A single blast can't extinguish that fire completely. But those hushed hours, as you called them, they're a really stark reminder, aren't they, of the vulnerability that's always lurking just beneath the surface of all that vibrant commerce.
Undeniably. We saw the physical shock of the blast morph into this cultural shock. The silence hanging heavy in that usually spice-scented air.
So the final thought, the so what for you listening.
Yeah, it's this. Even in a place that you define by constant noise, by relentless, almost frantic commerce, it's actually the absence of noise, the silence, and those immediate basic human actions, scattering, praying, bolting for safety, that really show you the true measure of fear. Those quiet moments on November 11th, they were maybe the clearest measure of the destruction from November 10th.
We've seen how fear can just shut down a city's heart. But here's something to mull over. When an urban center is built on literally centuries of endurance, like Chandni Chowk, how much more powerful, really, is that first trickle of returning customers compared to any official statement about resilience? What force ultimately proves stronger? The deafening sound of the blast, or maybe just the simple, persistent sizzle of the first jalebi being fried at the Dariba Kalan Jalebi Wala the very next day? That's the question of endurance we're left with.